Accumulating evidence is suggesting that the neural oscillations, aka brainwaves, appear to have important role in the infrastructure of the cognitive functions and communications among different brain regions as well as different neural networks as a whole. In addition to that, most recently, top laboratories and top scientists are also bringing forth evidence that this communication facilitated by wave frequencies within the brain is not limited only to the brain, but appears to be also happening in the rest of the body and within the other organs within the body, as well as the blood vessels. In other words, it appears that these rhythmical vibrations have an important role in information exchange, not only within the brain, but also from the different organs in the body to the brain. Before we delve into this particular study, let's take a quick look of some of the most recent findings when it comes to brainwaves frequency, infrastructure, and communication facilitations within the brain that most recently have come out within the past few years. If you remember, in the previous videos, we discussed how alpha, beta, as well as gamma waves appear to have different roles and different activities and responsibilities when it comes to this information exchange within the brain and different brain regions. In particular, when it came to working memory functions, it appeared that the gamma waves, which are higher oscillation, they are of higher frequency, appear to be very active or extra active when individuals are accumulating information from their sensory systems, aka, for example, looking at a piece of information, listening to a piece of information, and that's where all the accumulation of information from the external world comes in. That's where you have the most activation of the gamma waves that appear to happen a lot in the prefrontal cortex, and more specifically in the superficial layers of the cortex. Whereas on the other hand, the beta waves, as well as sometimes alpha waves, which are in lower wave frequencies in comparison to gamma waves, appear to happen in much more deeper layers of the cortex, and they also appear to have the function and responsibility to work as a gatekeeper of the working memory. In other words, they will tell the information carried by the gamma waves into the working memory when to come in and when not to come in and when to stop. We also discussed the spatial computing principle, which is a more novel principle in that it helps scientists understand and discuss how these different brain frequencies that are very distinct understand which neurons and which neural networks should be activated, or where the information within which part of the neural networks within the brain and within specific regions lie, because that has been one of the most enigmatic questions as to how does the brain know where information is located and how. And so, as you can see, all these sort of brain waves frequencies, aka neural oscillations, are not just a buzz happening that we just see it on the screen when we look at, for example, wave activities, but it appears that they have much more roles and responsibility of what we anticipated. They're much more than we thought they were. The first time ever that we were able to detect the brain waves of humans actually happened 100 years ago. So it's been a century since we have been aware of alpha, beta, gamma frequencies, and we've been categorized them. But it's not only until this recent year, and more specifically in 2023 and 2024, where scientists are awakening to the fact that there may be more to these frequencies than just, for example, us being able to use them to detect, for example, seizures in healthcare. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there is much more to it. And it has taken us a century, basically, to start figuring that out. And that's one of the reasons in particular I am very excited, because these are the type of research I've been conducting for the past decade. And it was always in my mind that it cannot just be the fact that we can detect, for example, mental disorders with brain frequencies. There must be more into it, and it appears that there is. And now we're also seeing that these vibrations of frequency may also be happening in this sort of rhythmic information exchange within the body, within the organs of the body, with the brain as well. And so in this most recent published study, these scientists, whom I believe were mainly from German universities, noticed that there might be some information exchange at the vibration and rhythmic level that is happening from the blood vessels, the pulsations of the blood within specific vessels to the brain. In this particular study, they examined and did experimental studies from the pulsation information exchange that is happening from the blood vessels to the olfactory bulb, which is the center for our smelling, the senses of smelling for us, which is very popular to study because it has direct connection to the brain. In other words, there is no intermediary organ that is between the olfactory bulb and the brain. It actually goes directly, our senses of smell go directly into our brain. They don't go through the heart or the liver or anywhere. It just sort of, it's a direct connection, and that's why it's very interesting and exciting to do experimental work in this part of the connections from the sensory smell to the brain. And in a nutshell, what the scientists discovered was that there was a communication from these rhythmic pulsation of the blood within specific blood vessels that goes directly through the olfactory bulb into the neurons, and that appears to have some type of a communication role and responsibility to specific regions of the brain and specific neural networks of the brain. And that pulsation and vibration is what is being communicated to them. They also hypothesized that this might be the fact for other organs within the body. In other words, their rhythmic vibrational pulsation through the blood vessels goes into the brain and sort of tells the brain, by the brain reading these rhythmic pulsation, that hey, everything is okay, hey, we are functioning this or that way, or hey, something is not okay. And so these are very, very new areas within the body of knowledge where biologists and chemists and neuroscientists and of course also computer scientists are collaborating more and more together to sort of put their brains together and see how are these communication happening within the brain, because it's no longer just appears to be just a neuroscience, but it also appears to be a connection from the brain to the rest of the organ happening by vibrational different frequencies, and they appear to affect one another. It is way too early to get too excited about these body of knowledge and these type of experimental studies, but the exciting part is that we are starting. We are awakening to the fact that there might be more to just the physical connections within the body and the brain, but it could also be these sort of non-physical connections in terms of wave frequency activities, electrical activities that we cannot necessarily touch, but we can measure them through different devices. And there definitely might be more to this physical connection than just the brain connecting with within different neurons and different brain regions, but there's also these electrical wave frequency activities that is happening among the brain and the different organs within the body.